The rain has passed and we're back into a sunny autumn day again at Amazon Cars. What's been happening in the workshop? Very productive week actually. Here's John's car. It's a 142E from the United States, and being top of the range, of course, it came fully loaded. Let's have a just quick look inside the engine bay because it's kind of crowded. Okay, so Bosch D-type fuel injection sitting here. We built this engine, I don't know, a decade ago maybe. And on top of that, there we go, there's the power steering pump, big lump of iron. Bigger lump of iron is the air conditioning compressor here. Now the air conditioning we've de-rigged. It had all died, and kind of don't need it here, do we, in the UK. However, we have to keep it because of course it is effectively the jockey wheel for the power steering. So until I can find a replacement jockey wheel, we have to keep this huge great lump here, which is slightly irritating, but we can live with it. And so why did John's car come here? It wasn't, to quote, it wouldn't go uphill. First of all, we found that the number 3 HT lead wasn't actually on the spark plug, it was just kind of resting there, so that had burnt out. Then we still had a problem, which we eventually identified on the oscilloscope as being a bad earth on number 3 injector. Now this is not uncommon on the D-Jetronic. Here is where all the sensors and actuators are earthed on the Bosch D-Jetronic. And these ring connectors basically can go dry over time and you get a poor connection to earth. And that's all that had happened. We had, I think, 2 of the injectors had high resistance to earth, and number 3 had completely open circuit. So we replaced those earths and all of a sudden the engine flies again. So that's lovely. So yeah, really pleased. It's just such a sweet engine, this. John's car comes from the West Country, so we only see it every 3 or 4 years. We don't see it annually. And in checking the front calipers, we found that the inboard pistons were a little bit recalcitrant, didn't really want to return properly, so we were slightly overcautious there and replaced the 2 front calipers, knowing that we're not going to see this hopefully for 3 or 4 years. So calipers done, and took it out on the road this morning for a decent test drive and to put in some fresh fuel, and it just drives so nicely in spite of the fact that it has an automatic gearbox, the BW35. This car is just actually very enjoyable to drive. The power steering is just so, it feels good and accurate. The BW35 changes gear neatly enough, nice for cruising, and the engine is definitely sprightly. So altogether a very nice car. It's going to go next to Brian Goo to have some bodywork done before heading back to John down in the West Country. The only other thing we found was here, this air cleaner, a mouse had obviously got in and had a good chew at the air filter. Now we used to be able to get a replacement insert for these filters. They seem to have gone completely unobtainable now, and so we have to put the whole canister in, which is really irritating because it's got a perfectly replaceable paper element in there, and you can get at it moderately easily, yet we can't buy the wretched thing. We have to buy the whole of this. Good. Okay, what else has happened in the workshop? Come back indoors. Steve's 164, the 123 Dizzy has just arrived at last, so we'll do that won't be a long video, but we'll do a technical video on installing that in the 6-cylinder car. So work should start on that properly next week. It'll be out with the radiator, off with the timing cover, because Steve wants us to inspect the timing gears. Now, I'd be very surprised if we find anything amiss with the timing gears. The steel's just very difficult to comprehend how they could let go. However, we'll have a look and make sure that that's absolutely fine, so that Steve is confident with what he's got. So that'll be next week.
It's got a noise at the front end, that's why we're doing it.
So having spent the start of the week working on John's 142E, we then put Amy's competition 142 on the ramps. It had a little tug to the right under heavy braking, so 2 new calipers, and sure enough, the left-hand caliper was clearly older than the right hand, and was the inboard pistons, once again, inboard pistons, were definitely recalcitrant. So hence the right hand's working more efficiently, hence its tendency to dive to the right a little bit. Incidentally, this is Amy's right-hand caliper and is actually in excellent condition. So if anyone wants a right-hand 4-pot Girling caliper for 40 quid in what I regard as very good condition, then just give us a shout and we'll send that out to you. Okay, so we've had 3 cylinder heads checked since the Tour of Cheshire event, where I thought we had a cracked cylinder head. Turns out I was wrong. 3 cylinder heads pressure tested and crack tested, all perfect. So in other words, it really was the head gasket. So we have an L-ring head gasket here at 1.2 mil thick. Well, that's a bit thicker than I'd like. I prefer my engine slightly higher compression than that. So at the moment, we're waiting to get 2 bespoke made solid copper gaskets to arrive, which I think are going to be 0.8 and 1 mil. And hopefully that's next week. So that means we can get Amy's car back together again, which would be I hate having my cars disabled. It really jars on me, and I don't sleep at night, and I'm fractious. So hence it'll be nice to get that sorted. And then of course, Amy's out on the RAC Rally of the Tests, navigating for Roger in the MG again, and then she and Neil are out in this on the big tough one, the Land's End to John O'Groats event, which is a toughie. So we really need to know that everything is perfect with this car before that event. What else have we got? So, yep, cylinder heads came back. So my choice for Amy is either refit the same head as she had before, which is this one that has now been crack tested and been deemed perfect, or my old injection setup from stage rally days, which is gas flowed. Both are the same compression ratios, high compression, but gas flowed versus standard. At the moment, I'm tempted to go for the gas flowed head. At the end of last week, we received my CNC'd 142 door cards, and I did a nice technical video showing how easy it is to replace the door card with fresh, and did it on Amy's car. However, I have now marked out where the little keyholes are for the original Volvo plastic clips, and I just need to get that onto the CAD system, which really I should do before the end of next week. And then that gives us the ability to make genuinely identical replacement door cards for the 140. So that was quite nice. And these here, on John's car, somebody had fitted the hubcaps, the late style hubcaps, which have a countersunk screw through here, with huge great ugly washers and all sorts of strange arrangement to make them fit. Of course, Volvo's part number 1212079 was a rubber washer, probably 8 mil thick, that used to go here, and the screw then compresses down on that to allow this to bed onto the wheel. Well, I've done my own design to go on the inside. Now, so far, I've made this out of PETG, which is a fairly hard plastic and isn't at all, and therefore had to make it in two different sizes, 4mm thick and 3mm thick, depending on how your hubcaps are. But hopefully we'll get hold of a new material called TPE, I think, which has rubber-like qualities, and we'll try making the 4mm out of TPE and see if then that compresses nicely to give a neat fit to these, in which case we then have a really, either way, we've got a solution to the missing rubber compression washer here that allows your hubcap to fit neatly without rattling around. 12-12-079s. Yeah, so next week, working on the 164. And then, Emma, what have we got lined up?
Amazon in for a service.
Okay, Amazon in for the service. We're just waiting for Gareth to turn up, my driver in historic rally events, bringing his Amazon. We're going to sling that onto the ramps and change his gearbox top, because it's been very difficult to engage first gear with two different gearboxes. Therefore, it's really got to be the gearbox top. It's nothing to do with the gearbox itself. So we're going to pop out the gearbox, pop on a remote shift, and then put it back together again, after which we'll head out to Derbyshire. It's going to be a night section on Saturday, followed by half a day of rallying on Sunday. So a nice sort of return to the days when Emma and I started, which had sort of a day, a half night, and a half day all over a weekend, which used to be fabulous events, just great fun. So that's what we'll be up to. Hopefully, I'll be able to navigate slightly better than I have done on the last 3 events. So we live in hope, and I'll let you know next week. Thank you very much.